back and thanks for staying tuned. Of course, we'll be delving into our focus conversation for this Tuesday morning. Quite a number of things happening. Like I earlier introduced, we're going to be looking at the civic impacts of some of the steps that have been taken by the federal government and the Nigeria Police Force in the issues arising out of our country this morning. Of course, we're being joined by Otuekon Franklin, who is the chairman for Center for Accountability Network in Akwa Ibom State. Of course, he is the chairperson for that civil society organization in Akwa Ibom State. Good morning, Otuekon Franklin. Good to have you joining us this morning. Director of Center for Human Rights and Accountability Network, CRAN. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Oya. Good to be with you. You are looking good this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Nice to be with you.
Thank you so much. How is Uyo this morning?
Well, Uyo is fine. I have not met my friend before. I have just seen him now. You look good.
Thank you very much.
That's Emmanuel.
You like my tie?
Emmanuel, you're looking good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, we're not looking like what the government is making us look like.
Okay. Serious issues. So, Director, a lot of things are happening, and I'm feeling like, civil society organizations should be on the heat right now because a lot of Nigerians are wondering which way we are going. Hashtag End Bad Governance protest just finished, and then we have seen the federal government via the Nigeria Police Force pick up those 10 people, most of whom we saw in press conferences, just dishing out what the organogram for the protest was. But our first question is this really what the federal government should be doing? Isn't protest backed up by the law? Why are we seeing Nigerians being victimized?
Well, I first off, I must say that the protests achieve its set purpose, one of which was to, send a message to the authorities of the government that, look, Nigerians are actually suffering. When you are talking about end bad governance, it simply means that something is not going well, and the protesters came up with a lot of issues that they put before the government. And these issues included the issue of reversal of the fuel subsidy removal, issue of our constitution, which I have over time maintained that is one of the faulty foundation on which the democracy we are operating is built. I have over time said that our constitution is very faulty and that we have over 68 items in the exclusive list, which is what only the president or the executive can legislate upon. Then you have about few in the concurrent, and so you have several issues that ought to do with the constitution. So you could even see a follow-up from the patriot who came up to say that there is need for us to also have a constitutional review conference in order for us to be able to have a referendum to adopt a better constitution for the country. Another issue another item that the presenters also listed as was the issue of the having a unicameral legislature. That is to say, you don't need a two-arm legislative National Assembly. You need just one arm, so that it will also cut the cost of governance. They also raised the issue of several issues that were raised, and I think this also made the president to come up to address the nation, part of which was the president should address the nation, which the president did. And you could see that within that space of time that notice was given before the protest actually kick-started, you could see the government being on their toes, the government officials being on their toes. You saw the ministers run to their states. You saw the appointees of the president going about trying to pacify Nigerian youth. That message was passed. Now, the protest was 1st August to 10th August. The message was that we need good governance. When you have a hashtag of bad governance, simply means that you need to have a reversal of bad policies. One would have thought that the government will, return back to the drawing board pick these demands of these protesters and look at it. Are there issues that can be addressed? Are there issues that needed attention of the government? And then address it. You recall the issue of the NSAS protest. The government immediately went to drawing board, and the Nigerian police unit, the SARS, was disbanded. That is what one was expecting the government of the day to do. One also, expected that, being that our president is a father of protest, had led several protests in past, during the military era, after the military era, and even most recently in 2012. And the rest of it, when the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, increased the pump price from 67 naira to 165. There was a protest in Abuja and Lagos, which I was part of the protest. The president today led the protest, and other chieftains of the APC. Nobody was, framed up. Nobody was arraigned. Nobody was, persecuted or prosecuted. And that is part of that protest is what led to the change in government in 2015. So one would have thought that the president, being a father of protest, being one who understands the matrix, the calculation in protest, would simply, address the demands set before him by the youth, by the protesters, instead of beginning to pick them and beginning to prosecute them and persecute them. What we are seeing today is completely persecution. Section 39 of our Constitution guarantees the freedom of speech. Section 40 guarantees the freedom of assemblage. 41, the freedom of movement. And so, in fact, look at the way it was even done. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, where you will have the government will go to court and obtain court order to restrain protesters to be in a particular location. It happened in Abuja. It happened in some states. That wasn't a protest. That was like a teleguided kind of protest. The freedom of movement guaranteed by a constitution was completely restricted. So I think that what we are having today, is completely persecution. The president should address the issues that were raised by the protesters. I don't want to go into the matter that is in court. The government have said that they have, evidence that these persons that they have been arraigned now, we are trying to subvert the state. We are, financing terrorism. We are, being sponsored. I don't have the fact that they have. That it is now left for them to prove it, because one thing is to raise allegations, another thing is to prove it. I'm happy that we have a very strong and viral judiciary that will stand up to defend democracy.
Now it looks like because you have mentioned that the constitution is not even what we need right now, and it looks like the APC administration is using a different constitution from the PDP administration, because over time during the PDP administration, during Goodluck Jonathan administration, people were protesting, and we did not see that protesters were charged to court for treason or causing mayhem in the society. You agree also with me that after NSAS government protests in 2020, some protesters were charged and were actually taken to prison, and we are having this right now. The question I want to ask is, what exactly is giving government officials in this administration or even the past to stifle the right of citizens protesting or airing out their issues that they are not satisfied with?
It is the body language of Mr. President, because Mr. President is the father of the nation, and if you look at even after the protest, he bought a new jet and traveled out to France. It didn't even occur to him that Nigerians are starving. As we speak today, I just saw a report that you just read out that petrol is going for 1,001. I even saw a report that the Minister of State Petroleum, Henneken Lokbobri, had said that NPC should sell petrol for 1,000. So she said petrol above 1,000. That is what I read today in the report. I don't know how true is that. Today, the cost of living is high. What are we even saying? Nigerians are dying by the daily. People are just slumming and dying because of hardship, because of starvation, because of hunger, because of lack of medication, and the rest of it. You buy something today in the market at a price, say 1,000. In a few hours' time, the price becomes 1,200. In the next 1 hour, it becomes 1,400. It keeps fluctuating. A stable, economy. You have the naira on a free fall against dollar, and yet the president or the government is yet to have a better economic team to address these issues. Why would you call for protest when you have issues that are affecting Nigerians? What these youth we are asking for was very simple: fix the economy. At least, if you can't do anything, take us back to where you met us. Return back the subsidy, which is the beginning of the economic war that we are having. Are they asking for too much to say, fix the economy, give us good road? Look at insecurity in every part of the country. The other day, an emir was killed. And you have several issues. This issue of sponsoring of terrorism, supporting the financing of diseases, we've been hearing this issue. At a point in time, I think United Arab Emirates even listed some names of top government officials that were said to have been behind this sponsor of terrorism, but nothing, was said in the past government. So what are we simply saying? I think that the government is just chasing shadow, and if the government continue in this pattern of not addressing the issue, they will get to a point where Nigerians won't be able to contain it. Look at what has happened in other countries where you have protests. It's things like this. It's bad governance. So there is need for the government to sit up. Within 1 year of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, we've had several either strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress, or protest by Nigerian youth, or strike by doctors, or strike by the ASU. So these keep reoccurring. What is actually wrong with the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? I think that the president might have good intentions, but those who are manning the economy, those who are helping him to implement these policies, are not doing it sincerely. Take, for instance, when the president came on board, he sacked the CBN governor, Emefiele. He sacked the EFCC chairman. And we also call for the sacking of the NNPC GMD, Mele Kyari, who oversees and superintend over the NNPC, the three NNPC that are not working. And Mele Kyari kept giving us a date for the full operation of the refineries. Up until yesterday, we now saw that the NNPC now said that they are running, that they are getting low in potential because of the fund, the debt. So all this while they've been giving us false hope, deceiving Mr. President. So what are the youth asking for? Reposition this sector. Let the petroleum sector be effective. The President is the Minister of Petroleum. If, for instance, Uyai and Emmanuel, you are employed by Spectrum TV to do what you're doing, and in more than 4 years, you are unable to produce a single news item or a single commentary or a single program like this, are you still fit to be there? That is the question that is still bordering on the issue of Mele Kyari and his team. You had Mele Kyari appointed in 2018 as NNPC GMD. He has not been able to refine a liter of petrol in the three major refineries of this country, and yet he's putting billions of naira to on turnaround maintenance on a yearly basis, and people are kept there and people are being paid. You saw when we had the Dangote refinery came on board, you saw how it almost being killed until Dangote himself came out to accuse the NNPC and the cabal in the sector. Who are these cabal? Are they foreigners? They are Nigerians. What is more of sabotage than people who are working against the interests of Nigerians? What is more of terrorism than people who are killing Nigerians slowly? So that is the point. The economic team of the president need to do more. Mele Kyari has to go for us to have a stable, refined product in the country. You don't have a crude oil that you export and you only go and buy with the foreign currency and then bring back and tell us landing costs and tell us that market forces will determine how it will be sold. That is where we are today. That is why we have these issues. So you continue to have protests until Mr. President address the issue. What they are doing today, they are simply treating malaria, whereas the issue we are having is epilepsy and kwashiorkor. it is high time the president started looking inward and looking at the real reason why these youth are calling for protest and address these issues. Nobody hates Mr. President. Nobody hates his government. Nobody hates the party. Since I've been talking here, I've not mentioned any party's name. I belong to no party. My party is in Nigerian state. So the youth that protested did not say party A is wrong, party B is this. They are simply saying, fix our economy. And simply as that, you can have students today being kidnapped from hostels. Just about a week ago that our core members from Akwa Ibom State who went to serve in Zamfara was the last person Solomon was released. Having served a year in the kidnappers den. Where is the security? Doctors are the doctors are on strike because their colleague that was abducted is yet to be released. You have several issues that the president needs to sit back and rejig his team and give us the renewed hope that he promised us. Simple as that.
So we are looking at the impact of this particular move by the federal government. Now, if the youths, if Nigerians do not have the backing of the Constitution, that's the implemented backing of the Constitution to peacefully process and peacefully protest against anything that they will, now that's a problem. We acknowledge that in some parts of the country, the protest did go violent, but would we say that it was by the instigation of these men and women that have been arrested? Remember that most of them took the liberty to have press conferences across the country. So it was a more organized system, and we have them being arraigned. Earlier on, you talked about having faith in the jury system of our country. Are you sure that, these people are going to be properly tried by the books and by the quality of evidence available for them? Two questions I'm asking from that is, what's the position of civil society organizations? I've seen that Amnesty International has reacted with regards to these arraignments. So what is the position of civil society organizations? And do you really believe that the judiciary is going to be, are they going to serve the law? Are you sure that they are independent of the influence of the federal government on this matter?
Well, let me take the last question. The judiciary has remained very firm. I recall in the military era, we used to have the judiciary giving out judgment against the military dictators. Several of them. We still have judges. We still have juries who believe in the integrity and the powers of the law. Now, when you arraign someone, it's not enough to frame up charges, 6 count charges, 10 count charges, when you don't have the sufficient evidence. That is why I say I don't want to go into the matter in court. I don't have the evidence that the state has. The state have come up with a very weighty allegations against this person that they are arraigning. Of course, they freezed account of some persons. They also allege that a foreigner, a Briton, was part of the plot. And at a point, they invited the NLC president to come and, give his own account of what he knows about the tenant occupying the NLC building and the rest of it. So they have their intelligence. I don't have the intelligence. But the truth remains that you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt, because the offense are capital punishment. It's not something that can just be, flip up and then you come up and then you get conviction. You have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that your allegations against these persons are substantial enough, are proven. So the onus now lies on the state to prove the allegation. So we all watch. We will all wait to watch. We will watch the process. I'm happy that it is in an open court. We will all watch the process. We will follow through the process to see what will be the outcome of it. But the truth remains that, like I have said before, had Mr. President, had the government addressed the issue of hunger, had the government addressed the issue of bad governance, had the government addressed the issue of worsened economy, today very hard you will get a private sector operating in its business comfortably. because of the cost of diesel, the cost of petrol. Very hard. And you don't even see the only class of people who are enjoying this economy are those in government at the state, at the federal level, those in government at the state level. So you only have 2 industries that are effectively working under this economy, and these industries are the federal government and the state government. The rest sector have collapsed. Today you don't have a middle class again. You are either in the government or you are dead. So you can now see people who are going cap in hand begging for food.
So the government has become a class? Are you saying the government has become a class?
Yeah.
The government is a class that you have to belong to for you to survive. I have said that we have only 2 sets of economy. I mean, 2 sets of sectors that are actually effectively operating under this economy. I repeat, we have 2 sectors that are effectively operating under this harsh economy. The first sector is the federal government. Second sector is the state government. The other sector that you ought to have, the private sector economy, is collapsed. So you have the sector of government, federal government and state government have become sectors that are not operating. So you can have Mr. President travel to France, flaunt his new private jet. You have the governors living large with their large convoy in the state. You have government appointees living large, and that is just that. But you see the poor man moving on the street collapse and die. You have someone who has no money to buy drugs. He's in the hospital, the next thing he dies off because he has no money to purchase drugs. The cost of drugs is high. The cost of food items are high. The cost of building materials are on the high side. House rent is on the high side. And you are arguing with labor that is asking for a living wage, that you want to give them a minimum wage of 70,000. That argument took for a long time. You can imagine how much the National Assembly members are getting. We are having argument as to their monthly pay. Some are saying they are receiving 21 million. Some are saying they are receiving less. And the question as to who is fixing their salaries, nobody can actually say it. I think yesterday you had a summit in Abuja where the CSOs are calling for a review of the pay of the National Assembly members. So that is the point. We are only having 2 sectors that are working under this harsh economy that this renewed hope has given to us, and which is the federal government sector and state government sector. No industry is operating, no employment anywhere, no food anywhere, no drugs, no hospital, doctors are on strike. Everybody is to your tent, oh Israel. Security, get security for yourself. You must have a fence, you must have a security wire, you must have dogs, you must have people, you must have your gate man, people that will protect you. The government that ought to provide you security and welfare, as enshrined in our constitution, section 14, has not done anything with respect to security. So it allows you to secure yourself. The last time I saw a report of I think one of the northern states where the citizens had to now be the ones to go after bandits to rescue their persons who were abducted. Where then lies the laws that put the security of citizens in the hands of the state? You are traveling on the road. The road is almost safe. Bandits are on the highway kidnapping people. Upon that, you still have bad road network. To travel from Akwa Ibom to Port Harcourt, you will spend a journey of 1 hour 40 minutes. You will spend 5 hours because of bad road network. You are traveling to Calabar, it's a no-go area. You are traveling to Abia State, so we are just locked down. Federal highways have collapsed, and we are just there. And yet you have a government that is living large in Aso Rock, living large in government houses in the state. That's where we are today.
Now, you've listed a lot of problems that Nigerians would actually air out their agitation against. Now, with the constant arraignment and prosecution of peaceful protesters in the country, do you think that this is going to shut Nigerians up from actually airing out their grievances, or is going to make them protest more? Because each time a Nigerian hit the street to make a peaceful demand of good governance, it seems the government are trying to tell them, no, you cannot do this. Do you think this will rather shut Nigerians off from protesting, or Nigerians will still be able to hit the streets to protest?
I can assure you that though we are operating a civil rule, mark my language, Nigeria is operating a civil rule, not a democratic rule. Because under a civil rule, you have people who have military mentality, who do not obey the rule of law, who do not see the rule of law as supreme, who sees the might of the state as supreme. So that is where we are. We are operating the rule of law. Though we are operating the rule of man and the civil rule, Nigerians are determined. We have passed through this road under the military era before. I'm happy that Mr. President is our leader in protest. Yes, in the 90s, we were together. You know, we protested against the annulment of June 12th. So he has been in protest, several protests, and he has taught us on how to protest. So it would be wrong for him, having climbed to the ladder, he now removed the ladder and said, no more protest. It won't work. Nigerians are still going to go out to protest peacefully. I am against any violence protest. I'm against any plan to overthrow any government. I'm against any plan to subvert the state. But peaceful protest as enshrined in our constitution is what Nigerians are going to be embarking upon. And I can assure you that the president is not aware of what is happening. You recall in the days of President Muhammadu Buhari, ASU was on strike for close to a year, for 8 months. He was interviewed in one of the occasions. He said he didn't know about the strike. He didn't know about the strike. So people who are around him are not allowing him access to information that he needs to know. So I can assure you that Mr. President is not aware of the hardship that is going on. Those who are around him are telling him you are the best. They play music for him to dance. They tell him you are the best. What I'm saying now, they won't allow him to see it. He has media aides who ought to get this information that we are discussing here and pass it to him and give him press cuttings. Buy papers on a daily basis, cut the part that has to do with the government, economy, security, and the rest of it, and give to the president to read. But they won't do it because they don't want him to see and hear what Nigerians are saying. So the president may not even be aware of the hardship. That is why, like I said, shortly after the 10 days protest, he flaunted his new jet and fled out of the country to France. He didn't know about all this. He's not aware of what is happening. Wow, he can only be aware when he goes out of the country. They will tell him overseas that this is what is happening. He will now be surprised. And when he comes back, his aide will tell him, we have fixed it. It has been fixed. Otherwise, like I have said, Mr. President, when he removed fuel subsidy, in August last year, the NLC came up to protest. He assured that NNPC refinery will start operation in December last year. December came and passed. No, the refineries, none of which operated or functioned. The NNPC GMD fixed another date. It kept fixing date. So the president may not be aware that the refineries are not functioning.
That would be a major...
aware of the hardship that is going on. But he's the Minister of Petroleum. That is the point. And the box stop on his table. So he ought to be able to have people who should be patriotic, who love this country, to tell him, like his wife, like his kids, to tell him this is what is happening, this is what we are seeing on Twitter, this is what we are hearing, this is what we are doing, this is what we are seeing. And this is what I think the president ought to be told. And the president I know is a father of all. In fact, he is the only person who has been so prepared to become president. Of all who have become president before him, he's the only one who has been so prepared, who has lost this ambition and became so prepared to become president. So he should be able to fix the economy because he knew what the past government had gone through and he should be able to fix it. But because perhaps he's not aware of the challenges, that is why he could not be able to do what we expect of him.
I think I would like to ask you. You said the president is not aware. He has. You also
I said might not be. Might
not be aware. Might not be aware because I remember that during the protest, the president still came out to make a national speech and said he has heard the cry of the protesters that he was going to address that. We have Ajuri Ngelali always making statements on behalf of the president. We have Bayo Ononuga always making statements on behalf of the president, and we also have we see that sometimes the president reads a newspaper. So when you say he might not be aware, it looks like he lives in a different world of our own in the country.
Okay, let me address the issue of his aides coming out. Okay, let me start with the issue of his address during the protest. 3 days into the protest, he came out to address Nigerians. Did he actually address Nigerians, or he was addressing himself? Go and look at the address that he reeled out. He was speaking to himself. That is why I said he seems that the president is cut off from the reality. He came out to address a protest that has items that were items of demands, and none of the items were addressed. That's the point I'm saying. So he was simply addressing himself, talking to himself, telling you what he will do in 2027, telling you what he has done, telling you the money he has given to state governors, telling you the food, the rice he has given out, and the rest. That is what he was simply saying. Did he address the issue of the fuel subsidy? Did he address the issue of the bad road network, the issue of insecurity, and the items that were listed out by the protesters? None was addressed. So he was speaking to himself. That is a clear sign that he is not in tune with reality. Now, you mentioned his aides. I don't want to call their names. Go and look at what Bayo is saying on Twitter. He came out was calling names. He was accusing the other persons who also supported the call for good governance, like Peter Obi and Atiku. He was calling them names and battering words with them. You saw that at a point Peter Obi even had to threaten to sue him. Have you ever seen a media aide, an aide of the government coming out to be so bitter? So bitter about what Nigerians are telling him. But to state the obvious, Nigerians did not vote for either of these aides. Nigerians voted for Mr. President. He should have media parley. How I wish he came out to call the media houses and have a media parley. Over 15 months, he has not addressed a press conference or have a media parley. The address that he came to give to us, we are told that the address was even leaked before he was presented. What are we saying? It shows you that there are people who are living, who are working with him, who are not sincere about his government.
Okay.
That need to go.
Well, we do hope that, the president would have what it takes to clean his cabinet or find a way to function for the people whilst he's still with them. A lot of questions are being asked. But like he said, we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what the case with regards to, the 10 people that have been arraigned and the Britain that has been wanted. It's important to note that, the British government has actually responded to, the Britain that has been declared wanted in Nigeria. We do hope that this does not, build up to affecting bilateral relations with the United Kingdom government. Those are, eminent questions that lay before us. But let's move a little bit to the conversation of the uprising with regards to ethnic bigotry. Somewhere as far back as 2022-2023, we've begun to see agitations from different ethnic groups in Nigeria to save, the plot of further pushing the narrative on national television. I will not name, our regions as it were. But we've continued to see different people from some parts of the country agitating for the extermination of people from other parts of the country. And then recently, someone, fell into the trap on social media content creating and then called for the extermination of, the Yorubas and the Benis, which is a build-up and reaction to several years now of bigotry against her own people. It doesn't give grounds for her statement. But here we are. it's a rising problem. What do you think is giving birth to this issue that we see in our country? So let's address bigotry, ethnic bigotry for a moment.
You see, it's a sad one that we are in the 21st century and we are still talking about bigotry, we are still talking about ethnic hate. I recall before the 2019 elections, you had some prominent persons in Lagos State, for instance, who came up to challenge some ethnic groups to say they are not from the state, that they should leave the southwest. You even had in the north, where some prominent Nigerians were mentioned or came out openly to accuse some ethnic groups. So you have this ethnic distrust and ethnic bigotry because the Nigerian state has not been able to address these issues. That lady that came up to speak, that said she will poison a particular ethnic group, she will, kill them and all of it. She lives in Canada, and today we learned that she has been arrested. If that lady were to be in Nigeria, I can tell you that nobody will arrest her. It's because the state has not deemed it necessary to address these issues. So you continue to have this growing ethnic mistrust, suspicion amongst ethnic groups. When a government came on board, the question will be, who is the president, from which tribe? And then the question will be, why are the service chiefs appointed from one ethnic group? Next one will be, why are social persons appointed? Then next thing they will say the appointment the government is practicing nepotism, is practicing tribalism. Contracts are given to one particular ethnic group because the state itself seem to be tolerating this ethnic bigotry. But it's a sad commentary, it's condemnable. In our constitution, you are free to move to anywhere, you are free to live anywhere, do business anywhere, and within the country, within Nigeria state, the law allows you can go and live in the north and do business. You can live in the south and do business, because our constitution is what unites us, is the basis for us to exist as a state, as a nation. But sadly, the authority that ought to implement, that ought to enforce the powers of the constitution, seem not to be interested about it. All they seem about doing is to grab power, and after which they allow Nigerians to struggle with themselves. It's a sad one. It's condemnable. Ethnic bigotry is condemnable. Ethnic hate is condemnable. I encourage inter-ethnic marriages. I encourage inter-ethnic relationship. This is what it used to be in the years past by. We used to have people from the north come to marry people from the south, and this encourage unity. That is one of the reasons you have the NYSC, so that people are posted across the country. That is it, so that you don't have someone from a particular state serving in his own state, but is posted to go elsewhere to stay for 1 year, and in the course of that service, he is contributing to that particular area. He could even learn the language, learn the tribe, learn the business, and he could even marry there and do businesses there. That is what is the basis of the NYSC, which today has been almost destroyed. So I am simply condemning it, and I'm saying that the government should be able to stamp its feet on its ground and ensure that should anyone, no matter how highly placed, you saw what happened in the last election of 2023, where you have some persons in Lagos State entering people's homes, entering the popular market, where a particular ethnic group are populated in doing business, trying to send them away, and asking them to leave the state. At a point in time, a particular Oba in the West, I don't want to call the state, asked that the people of a particular tribe should leave their state. And that Oba is still there.
How can we address this issue?
To continue to increase.
How can we address this issue? Because like you have established, we've had people in authority, we've had of traditional monarchs of some ethnic groups instigate this against other ethnic groups. We've had politicians of no mean repute in Nigeria also voice these things. But now, the citizens also have been emboldened by the activity of some of these leaders, and they're taking on this bigotry also. So it's becoming a narrative that is widely pushed, and social media is also giving it room. How do you think we can address this issue before it, aggravates to something more serious?
Did you read the reaction of one of Mr. President's aides to Peter Obi's support of the End Bad Governance protest? In part of the speech, there were ethnic sentiments that came up to say Peter Obi is playing ethnic card, he's trying to support, he's trying to call for this, he's doing that because he's from some particular tribe. And this is an appointee, a spokesperson of Mr. President. So that is the point. When you have government spokespersons even seem to be encouraging such a thing, what is the body language? What does he give to you? It shows you that the state is complicit of this matter. Because the state seemed not to be very proactive, seemed not to be very, even when Nigerians came up to condemn the outburst of the appointee of Mr. President with regards to ethnic bigotry, the presidency never did anything about it. He was never, called to order or caution. Instead, he kept dishing out more. That is the point. So when you have people at that level of authority, pour out ethnic sentiment, pour out ethnic bigotry, what do you expect people who are on the lower level? That is where we are. So until the state, like I have said, is ready to address the issue of ethnic sentiment, to address the issue of nepotism, the issue of tribalism, you will continue to have this. And this is building up. It's building up to where you can have conflict. At a point in this, I think that was in the last administration, you had the north, the traders in the north saying that they will not bring onions and tomato to the south, and that their cows will not come to the south. And then you have people in the south saying our oil will not be used to feed the entire nation. I mean, in the immediate past government of President Muhammadu Buhari, you had it. There was a total lockdown between the north and the south, where the items that come from the north were stopped. And what did the state do about it? That is the point. So the state is complicit until the state is prepared. Like what happened in Canada. You could see the lady being arrested, and the state came up to issue a statement that will send a strong signal that this is not allowed in the state. But put that lady were to be in Nigeria, I doubt if the state would have gone after her. I doubt.
So how do we strengthen the structures and system that will bring us to statehood? Because it looks like, from what you listed earlier, it looks like there've been structures to bring us into having nationhood, where we will not be talking about ethnicity. You've talked about the NYC. You've talked about several things. So how do we strengthen these structures in place so that the next generation do not still come up with these ideals and narrative?
It is for the government to address this issue. In fact, I would have thought that by now, the government would have come up to condemn the social media clip by that lady. I think Amaka.
Yes.
Would have come up to condemn it and then call for her arrest.
Yes, the House of Reps actually...
Yes, they sent
the House of Reps actually did write to the Canadian government. That's why we have seen, the Toronto police effect the arrest, as it were. So they responded on that level. But like you said, we've continued to see even people in leadership do this, but not get apprehended.
Even back here in the country.
Yes.
That is the point. So I look forward to seeing a state that will study its constitution and implement the letter of the constitution, ensure that the constitution is practiced, the rule of law is enforced, not rule of man. Not you don't apply laws based on the class of persons involved. You don't apply laws in that regard. Look at who is involved and you apply certain laws. Look at who is involved here, you can waive the law. That is what seems to be happening. Selective principle of prosecution. Look at who is prosecuted. Somebody will be in government, use his pen and steal billions of dollars, billions of naira of the state. And then finally the person will just be, given a little, sentence. And somebody is coming out to call for a better governance. And the state, had to deploy all its might to say the person has committed a crime.
Well, these are the lives and times. These are the times that we live in. We are absolutely out of time, for the conversation. But as it were, you have set certain things straight. Voted confidence on the jury for us to see how they're going to go about the arraignment of the, hashtag End Bad Governance, purported sponsors, and you've talked about the part that the government needs to play in addressing the growing ethnic bigotry in the country. I do hope, like you said, that our investments in these conversations can get to the right quarters. Thank you very much, Otuekong Franklin, for coming on the show this morning and really, giving voice to the issues available in the country.
My pleasure, Uyai Anema. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.